membership meeting. Unfortunately, we cannot do it face to face, but I believe we have a lot of people online, so welcome everyone. So I'd like to formally call the meeting to order so we can get started. And then if I move to the agenda slide. No. Yes. So we have our agenda here. The welcome and call to order is basically what I'm doing now. The first 40 years, I'm pleased that we have Cathy Yule, who is going to give us a quick rundown of some of the highlights of the past 40 years. Then we move to my report as president, the membership report, the treasurer's report, SWS PCP has a section in here. Then the election results for the executive positions for the next 12 months, and then welcome the new president, and then new business. If you have items of new business and you haven't let us know, would you please do that through the chat facility. So I'll just go to the next slide. We have some housekeeping rules here. This is really rules of the day or the night for me. If you want to ask a question, then please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and type in the question. And then if someone wants to answer the question or make a comment in response, you can press the raise hand button and then we'll come to you in turn to speak. Please give us some time to see this. If the speaker's got slides on, they will not necessarily be aware of what's being asked. So we have to break in at a convenient time. And then once you've asked your question, please lower your hand so we know we've actually done that. And when doing this, please try to stay on the agenda point. It's very difficult if you're trying to raise points through this once we've moved on to the next agenda. So try to get in as early as you can. And if things get missed, we can come back to them at the end. It's new business. Issues of those business at least anyway. So I hope that is clear to everyone. The technology is there. It's up to us humans to get used to it and use it and to make best use of it. Now I'm really pleased to have this talk from Cathy. Professor Cathy Yule is talking about the first 40 years of SWS. And I just wonder, I think it's great to have this talk, Cathy. So from the outset, thank you very much for all your work to actually get this ready for us. And the other reason I'm pleased to welcome Cathy is, I remember at least, I'm not sure what she does, we first met in 1984 at the second Intercol Wetland Conference. So Cathy, it's a long time since I've met you, since we met each other. And I'm very pleased that we're both here to actually have help celebrate this 40 years. So I'll hand over to Cathy, and I'm sure we are all looking forward to hearing something about the last 40 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Max. I'm very happy to be here, and I do remember that meeting. I remember meeting you and thinking that you were a promising young man. So,
thank you.
Let's see, it's not advancing. I pressed that. There we go. In 1972, the US Congress passed the Clean Water Act, which mandated the management, regulation, and protection of wetlands, which until then had been considered wastelands and obstructed economic process. The Army Corps of Engineers was one of the agencies, and was one of the agencies in charge of the Clean Water Act. And Richard McComber gave short courses and workshops for several years in order to bring colleagues and a few others up to speed on wetland science. He often talked about forming a society in which they could talk about wetland science just from scientific issues without worrying about policies. So the idea took hold, and in 1979, a small group got together to make plans about such a society. The first annual meeting of the Society of Wetland Scientists took place in March 1980 in Tampa, Florida. They established 7 regions, which later became chapters. And these were based on the 6 regions that the Corps worked with in the United States as well as Canada. And the idea was that the executive board would take care of all the businesses of the society, like publishing the journal, and all the activity and ideas and so forth would be in the chapters. But unfortunately, these were, in a way, this is a great idea, establishing these regions, because the minute a person joined, they were automatically a member of a chapter. And there could be university professors, government employees, private consultants, and a mix of all the groups of professionals in the society. But they were very big regions, and over the next several years, a number of them split off into smaller, more workable units. But communications among them was very hard. They didn't have the funds to do very much. And so during that time, they did add an international chapter because international colleagues were joining. Let's see, it's not toggling. There we go. The society grew very quickly. And in 1980, there were 30-some members at that first meeting. Whoops, this is advancing inappropriately. The numbers grew to over 3,000 just short 11 years later. And so part of the problem in the very beginning was trying to work with this growing society and get procedures down and so forth. And the hero at that time was Dave Dumont, and his name should be appearing over that red arrow, and it's not there. He was elected secretary about 1983, and then shortly thereafter he was appointed the executive secretary and remained so for the next decade. And he was really the quintessential volunteer. His home was the virtual business office for the Society of Wetland Scientists, and eventually 3 rooms and the garage were dedicated to the files and activities of the society. His wife, Sandy, was a tremendous help. When new members joined, Dave put their information on a card and put it into a shoebox, and eventually that shoebox full of names had to be transferred to a computer, and there were more changes to the computer. And Sandy at one point had to enter by hand thousands of membership forms into the computer, and she was given an honorary membership in the Society of Wetland Scientists. So about 1991, Lee said, this is just too much. I mean, not Lee, Dave said, this is just too much, and said that he would like to step down. Well, by that time, fortunately, Lee Ischinger had become active in the society. He came through the Rocky Mountain chapter. He was one of the founders, and he was on the executive board, and at first the board of directors, and then eventually elected president. But he had a very good head for business, and he thought of things that most of us would not have thought of. He made sure there was insurance protection for the executive board and the board of directors for any legal issues that might arise. He made sure that we had the tax status that we thought we had in the beginning but didn't. And so at the time that Dave said he wanted to step down, Lee had already chaired a committee that had selected Alan Press, which was the, let's see, I'm still not toggling, which had we accepted Alan Press as the, which had a management arm to take over management. Jordan, I'm not responding to there we go. And so we've stayed with Alan Press for a few years, but they were really not quite equal to the tasks that we found that we needed. And so let's see, Jordan, I'm getting a thing saying to re-click my screen. There we go. So in 2002, we contracted with Burke and Associates. Whoopsie daisy, I'm catching up here. With Burke and Associates Incorporated, which was a full-scale management firm, and in 2005, they took over management of the logistic aspects of the meetings. And so in 2011, the contract went to AMPED, with whom we are working now very ably. And I should point out that what these management firms offer us is expertise in a wide number of fields, as well as the experience that they pick up with working with other scientific societies as well. Now, I want to go back to the early years to bring up one other matter. And Mark and Ronnie are up there prematurely, but that's all right. When I was first, when Ronnie Best suggested to me that I might like to join the society back in the early 80s, he said that he would nominate me. You had to be nominated by an active member. And he also gave me a management form, and I had to fill out this management thing to demonstrate that I was an accomplished wetland scientist. And I thought, whoa, that's fine, I can do that. But suppose I were an assistant professor. Do I want to belong to a society that is that elitist? And so I didn't join for a year or so. And what I didn't realize was that membership in the society was a credential for people like private consultants and some government people also. And by being a member, they could demonstrate that they had expertise in wetlands. And so this was, there was a rift developing. The original members were mostly government employees and private consultants. And as these university types started coming in, they had different expectations for professional society. And so a rift was developing between them. As early as 1983, Dick McComber suggested that some kind of accreditation was needed. And, but it wasn't until Mark Brinson and Ronnie Best in consecutive presidencies were able to work with a committee to frame what a separate society might look like that would be a professional arm of SWS. And so finally they set up the motions to be advanced in Ronnie's presidency, so that the minute it was passed, then a committee was ready to certify professional wetland scientists. And so this worked beautifully. The professional certification program was established, and because 90% of the members of PCP were also SWS members, the SWS president served as president of both societies, even though they were legally distinct. Well, that became pretty onerous, as you might imagine, because the PCP formed its own culture and its own needs. And so in 2003, Frank Day, who was president of SWS then, and Harold Jones, who was the first elected president of the professional certification program, signed a memorandum of understanding, which is the basis for our collaboration today. And Harold is holding an award he received several years later from giving him the Lifetime Achievement Award from the professional certification program. Another remarkable event happened in the mid-90s. Jim Lynch, our first webmaster, got the SWS website. And that was really a transformative event, because at that point we could start communicating with each other much more effectively. Now, a lot of the paperwork that filled up Dave Dumont's house was could be put on the web, although, as you may recall, it didn't all start very easily, because a lot of people were reluctant they weren't comfortable with the web. It took them a while to feel comfortable about going on and signing off and all of the things you had to do. But it really did remarkably alter our ability, improve our ability to communicate with each other. So by 2020, which is today, I should say by about 2000, the original 12 chapters were there. The international chapter had grown. They tried to form a Colombia chapter and it didn't fly. They tried to form a South America chapter, it didn't fly, and these people had to be folded back into the international chapter. Australia submitted a proposal that was accepted happily, And they eventually became the Oceania chapter, and then Europe and Asia followed, and China in 2017 is our most recent one. So the internationalization of the society, which we had talked about since the very beginning, was finally taking place. We have always been, students have always been an important part of the society. They were the first member group to be eligible for annual awards as soon as we had discretionary funds. So we still give the award for the best poster presentation and the best oral presentation at the annual meetings. The Frank Day developed a undergraduate minority program that has been very successful. Roughly 10 students per year come to the annual meeting. They each have a host mentor who orients them to the meeting. There are special activities also for them. A number of these have returned as graduate students, and a number of the graduate students have gone on to be mentors to the incoming undergraduates at the meeting. So that's been a very successful program at broadening our horizons. 13 student associations have formed. This was an initiative of Beth Middleton's. In the first few years, she went around personally to several universities to help them get these going. A student is now chair of a professional special interest section and is a voting member of the board of directors. And students are involved with the Twitter Symposium and the New Media Initiative. I'll just mention real quickly some of the activities of the standing committees and how they've changed over the years. Ways and Means started with trying to find endowments to bring in some more funds, some more discretionary funds. We eventually developed sponsorships for the meetings. As soon as we signed a publishing contract with Springer, we began getting royalties. And then not too long ago, it was useful to have an investment policy. Awards, as I mentioned, started with students. International Fellows were the next award to be added. And then shortly after that, there was a whole panoply of awards for active members. And most recently, Wetland Ambassadors as another student award was added. And these helped students get to international countries for short visits to do some research. Wetland Concerns has been probably one of the most controversial of the committees. Mark Brinson was the first to really get involved with national US issues. This was a time of revisions to the Clean Water Act and the no net loss of wetlands policies. And a lot of people didn't feel that that was right. They thought it's our job to produce this information and then let the readers out there take it and do with it what was necessary. But he felt that we are certainly the best group available to put our facts out and where we felt that they were needed and to make the case ourselves. And subsequent presidents have agreed with that. And we have gone on to deal with regional US issues as well as international issues. In publications, we have two highly respected journals, complementary journals. Our web publishing began with research briefs, which was a way of making our science available to a non-technical audience. And the person I should mention here is Karen McKee, who was the editor of Research Briefs. And she also, Karen has a lot of expertise in making videos. And she very generously shared that expertise to the graduate student who was running the New Media Initiative and helped her get it out and going. And that's turning out very well. And finally, education and public outreach, the first things they did were make brochures for us to pass out to our colleagues to encourage them to join the societies. Well, as soon as the web was up and going, then we got into webinars and Wetlands of Distinction. And I'll mention Kim Ponzio, who got these programs going along with the Wetland Ambassadors and is still heavily involved with the webinars as well. So what next, she says. This has been obviously a very brief survey of how the society arrived intact and flourishing at its 40th anniversary. And I hope it's clear that we stand on the shoulders of giants and we have up and coming giants among us as well. And I'm sorry I couldn't name them all in this short presentation. This is clearly a time for strategic planning. The Society has built important relationships and rolled out wonderful programs. And I hope that understanding how we got to where we are now will help us figure out how to sustain our momentum and preserve our identity in the months and years to come. So the next issue of Wetland Science and Practice will have an article on the history of Society of Wetland Scientists, and so you can get all the details there. And thank you very much for listening. Matt, back to you.
Thank you, Kathy. You didn't have a lot of time there, as we know, but you covered a lot. I mean, and one thing I felt when we haven't got time for questions, but I just want to make a couple of comments. One, to say thank you again, but two, it sort of struck me that a lot has changed over the 40 years, and yet some things haven't changed. And some of those things that haven't changed are the high values and the interactions and the focus on science, the questions we have about do we get involved in policy issues, wetland concerns, etc. They're actually totally irrelevant today. So I think we should realise this is part of a history. And I also, a couple of points right at the start which really struck me, which I think I just want to mention because I thought they were very, very relevant. Communication was hard. Communication seems to always be hard, but communication is what we need. Our means of communicating have changed considerably since we started this. I know when I joined, we had to write a letter of something. I think we didn't have the internet. And the other one is people did not have the funds to do a great deal. We still have that issue. We still question this. And the one that really tickled me was we had a card index kept in a shoebox with our membership on it. It was a classic because that's what we used to do. So again, thank you very much. I'm sure that if anyone has any interest and questions about this history, that they can contact you and yourself offline after this and have a discussion. So again, like I said it 3 times in this brief 2 minutes. Thank you very much. Then I need to move, just to move the screen, sorry. The President's talk, State of the Society, as we call it. I have a small number of slides here, which I want to go through. I'm not trying to say everything that's gone on in the last year, there's far too much. But I want to reflect on a few of the activities and issues that have arisen throughout the year. We have had a busy year, and from the outset, I'd like to thank the Executive Board in particular, the Board of Directors, and our staff for their support over this year. A special thanks to Beth Middleton, who today ends her term as past president and moves on to other things. You have some time back in your life, Beth. It's been a long time. I also met Beth, at the second Intercoastal Wetland Conference in 1984. And it's almost poetic that we served on the executive board at the same time, Beth, after some 35 to 36 years later. So, and then we have Kathy, who I met at the same meeting, talking about the society. So I am feeling old, but I'm feeling happy about it as well. So this back to the notes though, we are ending this year at a complex time for our global communities and our local communities. And while we are in SWS because of our common interest in wetlands, I'm sure that we all realise that we do this within a wider society, and that the health and well-being of our wetlands and the wider society at one level or other are connected. So I think just this issue about how we manage wetlands and how we fit in society, I think it's something we just need to keep talking about and keep in mind. There's a metaphor that we often use that healthy people mean healthy wetlands. I think that does apply in our world today. The next slide, annual meetings. And I have this heading here because much of our recent activity was about the decisions that the Board of Directors needed to make about the conferences that were planned for 2020 and 2021 because of the flow-on effect. And because the 2020 conferences at least were affected by the COVID-19 situation. We made, as a board of directors, we made the hard decision to withdraw from the consortium that was running the RE3 conference in Canada this year, and that, which has been now postponed to 2021. We made this decision in the light of the commitments that had already been made for the 2021 SWS annual conference being planned for June next year. It was a hard decision, as we needed to consider and balance financial arrangements against partnership arrangements. I think these are things that we value. We want our finances to be managed properly, and we want to develop our partnerships. And here we are, we had a real hard decision. So I think it also took some effort to get a sufficient understanding of the contract arrangements and the repercussions of any particular decision. So if anyone didn't really understand what a board of governance did, a board of directors actually had to do, I think this year we actually learnt there are sometimes hard decisions we need to take, we need to be informed about properly, and we need to take those decisions to manage this organisation. So I'd like to thank everyone from the board of directors who engaged in that process, and we come up with a decision. The outcome now is that we're actually moving forward from that decision. We made it, now it's time to move forward. Unfortunately as well, in terms of international conferences, the Intercol conference in New Zealand, which I was looking forward to attending as well, it's also been postponed to next year. And I think we need to be really careful planning our meetings next year, because a lot of people are pushing their conferences back to next year. So it may get crowded. And so it's just an issue of planning in this that we need to take into account, because it does involve our partner organisations. So moving on from the annual meetings, I was very pleased, this slide hasn't changed. Yes, it has. To hear Kathy mention the internationalisation that was occurring 30, 40 years ago. Before I go into this though, you'll see on this slide, we actually, Matt Simpson, I think it was, the other day, very cleverly said, we are international anyway. And I was thinking, yes, we are. So what are we actually talking about in internationalisation, which is a long word and I stumble over it all the time anyway. So we actually have changed it to global outreach. That heading may change a little bit in the future, but I think we're really trying to get at, we're trying to reach out to other parts of the world, not just for the benefits of bringing in members from other countries, membership of SWS, to try and get scientists and wetland practitioners from other countries to our annual meetings, but also to give the US-based members, who still comprise most of the membership of SWS, to give them an opportunity to learn about cultures and science in other countries. So we need to keep track. It's not just about reaching out, it's about coming inwards, I think, and then sharing this knowledge and the benefits we get from interacting with people from other places. So on the basis of that, we are establishing a new global outreach ad hoc committee that is being asked to address priority activities so we can take tangible steps to extend this global reach and the profile of the organisation. We already have a rich source of information and guidance from past committees who have looked at this. I don't think we really need to go back and say, what's our list? What are the activities we can do? We already have activities going on. So we'd like this committee, which we're still forming, we need to get a balance between the membership from different parts of the world, students involved, etc., like this. But it's actually build on what we're doing, not just to come up with another list of activities that we then struggle to actually implement because we run out of time. So one of the major steps we did do in this global area over the last year was to welcome the South African Wetland Society as an affiliated society with SWS, so that their membership can get greater access to SWS, and we are not competing with them to get the same members. There's an arrangement there, etc., where they can have access to some of the benefits of being a member of SWS for a very small fee, which takes into account the circumstances in those countries. So this is the first affiliated society, and we look forward to developing the relationship with them and extending similar arrangements to wetland-related societies in other developing countries. Next slide. Wetlands of Distinction, and again, Kathy mentioned it. You stole most of my thunder, Kathy, of a lot of these topics, which is what I mean by some things stay the same. You know, there's some commonalities between what we're talking about over time. We have the Wetlands of Distinction initiative, and it was expanded recently beyond the US, where it was trialled, and with multilingual facilities, so people can submit information in their own language, or at least some languages. And I was thrilled recently to see that an Australian site, the Winton Wetlands, which I'll show you some slides of next, has become the first site outside the US to gain this distinction. So you can see that we've stretched this map now. You've got the far left-hand corner of the site in Australia and the rest of the sites in the US. We'd like to have a lot of sites in between all around the globe there. So the Winton Wetlands is an interesting site because it is a bold effort to restore a wetland following the decommissioning or taking away of an irrigation water supply dam. It's the first time that's occurred in Australia. We have major droughts, we have major irrigation industries, and we're taking a dam away and putting the wetland back. It also supports local communities. There's people involved in this. I recall my earlier comments about wetlands being part of society. But many of these people have undergone dispossession over the last 200 years as the early European settlers dispossessed the Aboriginal people who used to meet on this wetland and get a lot of their food, etc. So they were basically pushed out and replaced by the early settlers, who in turn were displaced when the dam was built to accommodate irrigation. Now we've gone to a phase where the people who use the irrigation water resource have been displaced, as we've gone back to a recreational and a conservation ethic. So there's a mix of emotions, strong emotions about people who have been connected to the wetland, have been pushed aside, and some are now being welcomed back. Not everyone's happy, but I think this issue of how we manage wetlands is actually, and how we have to involve people, is shown through this site. So and I was asked by the people who manage the site to thank SWS for this accolade of being a wetland of distinction and the first one outside the US. So the slide, it is a wetland meeting. I need to have some slides of a wetland in it, not just talk about wetlands. This panel of slides shows some of the different states of the wetland and some of the cultural activities. While they're restoring the wetland, they're engaging people through very, very different activities. There's a lot of other activities besides the ones I've shown here. But one of the interesting things about it is the center panel at the top shows it when there's water. The panel to the right of that shows it in its more normal state when there is not water. Now, the dead trees, which you can see on several of these photographs, are not there because there's no water. They were there because there was too much water when there was a dam and there was a lake, a permanent water. So we have this wet-dry system which became wet for too often. And there's, I don't know how many dead trees are still there. But those dead trees do represent some of the social interaction of the thing, because the Aboriginal people of the area still value a lot of these dead trees, which have links back to their past. They got their own heritage associated with the trees. The trees may have died, but the heritage is still there in different ways. It's very, very complex. But the trees also provide the habitat of the system now. So, and yet, modern days, people look at the wetland and say, they see the bottom middle slide and say, it's dry. Where's the wetland? It's not a wetland. It's horrible. It's unhealthy. Because they want what is shown in the top panel. But the bottom slide is now the healthy, dry condition of that wetland, which I think challenges some of our scientific and social thinking and really plays a role in how we restore this wetland for the future. The next one is not coming. Yeah, policy comments. I want to mention this because many of you are familiar with the policy positions that SWS has taken with the wetlands of the US issues. I don't know who's in this photograph, so if anyone's laughing at the photograph or see themselves, it's someone else's fault. So you can all credit. I think I do now recognise some faces. I'm looking at it again. But this policy issue, and Kathy, you mentioned this again, how do we actually handle these policy issues as a society of a bit over 3,000 members nowadays with some very, very different views on some of the issues that we're facing. But we do have an active and dedicated team or set or teams who work in collaboration with our partners. And I think this is an important point. We're not doing it in isolation of other people. Wherever possible, we're working with partner organisations. And we appreciate the effort of the teams and our partners in doing this. And I see this as a model that SWS can use to work on complex issues. We're doing this, we're showing it. And it takes us into issues about how do we inform policy and legal outcomes, etc. We don't have to do the legal work itself. We have to have comment on the legal work. We also work with the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands by providing technical advice through their scientific and technical panel. This has been going on for some years. The convention has a major global role with 171 countries as members. The Ramsar section, as some of you may have seen, has also initiated a second citizen science survey of the state of the world's wetlands that will provide information that can help others make decisions about policy around the world, and we can compare wetland condition in different parts of the world. We're also, interestingly, being drawn into comments on publishing policy. It's a totally different policy issue. At the moment, this is mainly about open access. Various governments in the European Union, for example, are proposing that all the research that they fund through the public monies should be published at open access. Now, this sounds attractive to many people, but there's also a lot of research which is published that doesn't come from such projects. So we've got this issue, and I'm sure that we have, again, a range of views across SWS is really how do we handle this open access issue? The issue with publishing is that someone pays somewhere. It's a matter whether it's you who buys the journal or you who have to access the paper open access, someone else still pays. Your institution pays, or your research grants pay, etc. And the pressure on this is coming up. I just wanted to use it as an example of, it's a policy issue and it affects our finances or your finances in particular, and it's more complicated than some people may think. But to move off policy and to get to our team, and I hope you'd notice in this team the gender balance is well organised and in place. The age balance, we can question that one a bit. The nationality balance, etc., etc. I'm joking about these issues, but I think there is an issue in our teams of how we get balance between different people, the ages, where they come from, what they work on, etc. So, but we have a great history as an organisation. Kathy's shown us some of that already. We have a great team or teams. This is the executive board and staff who met, I think, in February this year in Madison, where the maximum temperature got to a massive 0 degrees centigrade, I think, during the week we were there, which is not usually my natural temperature. But we also have wetland science and practice. Kathy mentioned that as well. We have the Wetland Journal, which we can use to share our information among ourselves and with other people. And we also have, when we can actually meet face to face, a lot of stories about the hilarity and folly of our past field work. And I was using this opportunity to announce to Ralph Tyner, who I hope's on the call, haven't checked the names yet, that I think it'll be interesting to put some of these stories in wetland science and practice, to talk about the science and to talk about the absolutely stupid ways that we actually went about it and whether we achieved it or not. In my case, it's diving with crocodiles, etc. I'm still here. The crocodiles are still there. But a lot of other people have far more sensible stories than that. But I think it helps illustrate, one, how we've changed, and two, how we get by and do things as well. So as I end my term as president, I have reflected on the reasons I joined SWS, which was back in the 80s. I'm not actually sure when I joined, but it was in the early days of SWS. The reasons I joined are very, very simple. Working in Australia, in an isolated part of Australia at the time, no internet, very limited library resources. Key reason I joined was to access the journal. We still, after 40 years, we still have I think it's a journal. It's a great outcome for SWS to have its own journal. The other part was to extend my contacts in the exciting world of wetlands, which, as I've mentioned several times, led me to meeting various luminaries of SWS starting in 1984 and years after that. So now, as I get back to the role, the world of journal publishing is changing before us. I mentioned the open access issue, the internet, everything going online, etc. And as other ways, as we know from this actual meeting, as other ways we meet and share information. This is a virtual meeting. I don't know if, well, I certainly didn't think when I started this term that we'd be meeting this way at the end of that year. I'm pleased we have the technology, but it would really nice to actually see you and sit down and chat to you. Because I don't think it allows us to extend and develop the values of being an SWS. And a lot of it is about the personal interaction and learning from each other and listening to each other. So I look forward to the time when we can meet, hopefully next year, meet face to face, I mean there. So to finish this, again, I'd like to thank my colleagues on the executive board and our staff, many of them shown here in this photograph, for their support throughout the year. I really believe that our team has worked well together, and we all look forward to when we can personally sit down in our own little closed room, perhaps, and swap our own stories about what happened and how we did things, and possibly even how we may do it differently now that we've been through it. That's always. And we can sit down with others to talk about keeping our wetlands safe, to fix those wetlands that need some care, and to look after each other and our society as we reflect on the past 40 years and look into the future with confidence and compassion for wetlands and for people. So thank you very much. I'm pleased to have been president for the last year. And sorry, I was rattling my paper in front of the microphone there, sorry. Just now realised that. So now I go to one of the very pleasurable parts of the process, and this is the President's Service Award. And first, we have Gillian Davies, since leaving the executive board, Gillian has continued her strong support for wetland activities through the sections, in particular, but not only, the public policy and regulation section and the Ramsar section. This has included working with others to advise the executive board in the development of policy positions and the writing of policy letters, supporting climate change activities within SWS and getting these published to make them available to other people, actively supporting the development of a high-level plenary panel on the UN, this is a long title, on the UN Decade of Restoration and the implications of climate change on biodiversity and wetlands for inclusion in the postponed RE3 conference in Canada. This will now, we are very pleased to note, we expect this initiative to appear in the 2021 version of the same conference. And she has led the development of several papers and symposium on the rights of wetlands, which represents a holistic and socio-ecological view on the importance of wetlands in our lives now and into the future, locally and around the world. So thank you, Gillian, for your support for partnerships and for helping to bring research and practice together to address key issues for wetlands in the future. Now, I'm not sure here, but if there's a way that you can clap Gillian while I move on to the next one, please do. Find us a symbol or button or send some message there. Second, we have Scott Jecker. Scott has provided service to the Society over many years through his support for the chapters in particular and the wider membership. This in itself represents a major effort and is worth highlighting and appreciating. With this background and level of commitment, he then extended his contribution to lead the ad hoc committee charged with drafting our new strategic plan. Again, Kathy referred to the strategic plan. This is an incredibly important task. Getting the plan ready is incredibly important, and one that has required leadership and an ability to work with a diverse team. We all have our own views on strategic plan. Scott's role was to bring this together. It required insight into our society and its development over the past 40 years and foresight about the challenges and opportunities that we face. Through these efforts, we have a solid foundation to chart our directions, meet expectations, and tackle the wetland science and practice that comprise our reasons for being members. Thank you, Scott, for your efforts in leading this team and for providing your colleagues a basis to move ahead by building on our history and engaging with the future. Thank you, Scott. Next one, Andy Herb. It is an undoubted fact, I think, that the wetland restoration section is one of the stalwarts of our society. Andy has been closely associated with the development and success of this section. This has included the annual symposia that have been organised and well attended and had been planned for the RE3 conference in Canada as well, and for the Intercol conference in Christchurch. As a representative of the section, he has played an influential role in the governance of the society through the board of directors, with an ear for the necessary detail and able to make decisive inputs to help all of us. At the same time, he has recently led a small team to produce a science-based appraisal of the Ramsar Convention's guidance for wetland restoration, and in so doing has produced a platform for greater engagement with wetland managers around the globe, something that is very much within the Society's remit and interest. Thank you, Andy, for taking on board these roles and activities and for helping to raise the profile of wetland restoration needs and the profile and excellence of our members and hence the Society. So thank you, Andy, everyone there. And fourth, it's a pleasure to award Laurie Sutter. Laurie has provided exceptional service to the Society, to SWS, through her efforts as Treasurer. In response to our aim to present a balanced budget, she has worked assiduously to provide us the data we need to both make decisions about financial priorities and to ensure that the end product is balanced. She has provided the detail and guided us through the balance sheets, not so much because of the proverbial patience of someone who knows more than the average person about finances, but with clarity and reasoning that supports our decisions, including pointing out the financial uncertainties around our ideas and data. In addition, she has led the Ways and Means Committee to provide excellent suggestions on other ways in which we could raise funds and support the many new initiatives that we would like to implement. There is a lot we would like to do. We do need the funds. As well as thanking her and recognising her professionalism, I look forward to these suggestions to being explored and then enacted and our members seeing the benefits. Thank you, Laurie, Treasurer Extraordinaire. Thank you very much. Which brings us to the end of that. It'll be so much better to do that in person, wouldn't it? But we can't, but let's recognise these people anyway. So thank you to the individuals and thank you to the membership of SWS. So we do move to the membership report and Leandra Cleveland.
Hi, everybody. Let's see if I can get slides to actually move for me. So just wanted to go through very quickly where our membership stands. So this first slide is just looking at our trends over time. Kathy, thanks again for kind of talking about membership, and it's interesting to see how quickly membership grew and where we've had peaks and valleys and I know this particular graph doesn't start till 2011, but it is showing how we climbed out of, you know, our last recession that we had globally, and some of the hits we took for membership. And while you will notice that 2019 is down, it's down about, our December 31st, 2019 number was down about 5% from the previous year. You know, for all intents and purposes, I mean, we have held steady for quite a few years, and we would expect membership to go up and down a little bit. Obviously, we're looking at ways to see if we can't continue to increase membership. This year will be interesting to see with everything that's happened with COVID-19. As you guys know, I mean, there's uncertainty with people's jobs, with people's lives. You know, SWS membership is definitely down a little bit right now, but good news is we actually appear to be holding steady with our usual 80% membership renewal. That's typically how many of our members renew every given year, and we're already kind of hitting those numbers this year. What we are lacking is all the new members that we oftentimes get from meetings. So, you know, working both with the business office and also with the Ways and Means Committee, I know Lori and I and our respective committees want to kind of look at ways that maybe we can incentivize people to join and be part of SWS for the rest of this year, and obviously moving forward into the future. In terms of our membership composition, not a lot of surprises here, but you know, most of our membership is that regular membership category. We have about 14% of our membership that's actually lifetime members. And what I think is kind of exciting though is student membership. I mean, we do have 9%, and that's actually not a bad number. I mean, I know the student sections worked really hard to increase that, and hopefully with all of the good things we do for students, we can continue to do that. We also do have gratis developing country memberships, which are a much smaller percentage, but are something that as we move towards more global, you know, kind of this global outreach, we're hoping that we can touch more of these other countries and try to bring more people in. And maybe it's just part of affiliated societies, but regardless, really looking to try to expand our composition. In terms of chapter membership, you know, as Kathy was very kind to point out, I mean, when you look at our list of chapters, most of them are in North America. But we are looking and continuing to expand and add and subtract our chapters as the society evolves over time. Certainly the biggest composition is definitely with those US chapters still today, but we are making some strides in terms of, you know, getting our Asia, China, European, international, Oceania chapters, you know, up and running and trying to support them and find new ways to help them build those chapters up, and in the end gain more members and that global perspective within our organization. Section membership. So as you guys probably are aware, you know, when you join SWS, you're automatically put in a chapter. Sections though are a separate bag, and you have to pay to be part of those sections. Roughly 50% of our overall membership belongs to our sections. And I know Andy was just noted in Max's report, but wetland restoration is in fact our largest section. It's a very active section and has done a lot of positive things. I'm sure Andy is a major reason for that. But we also have seen a lot of growth and sustainability with Women in Wetlands, who continues to successfully do symposia and webinars. All of our other sections continue to grow. It's been great to see them grow and being on the board and hearing the ideas everybody has, and the hard work everyone is putting in is really something as a member that I certainly value. So hopefully we will continue to build on the foundations we have for our sections. And just to kind of note, you know, Kathy kind of already mentioned, you know, our student associations, and that has been a good program. The one thing I did just highlight here is in 2019, we added 4 new student associations. That's one of the biggest bumps in growth that we've had in this group in a long time. So I know there's a lot of reasons and a lot of people who are responsible for that. And hopefully we can continue to see that. I know 2020, again, COVID-19 is kind of probably going to have a little blip in the radar here for a lot of things. And if we hopefully can renew efforts and really kind of focus back on things as the school year starts this fall and we move into 2021. So that's really all that I had, and I will transition over to Lori.
Thank you, Leandra, and thanks for all of you who are here. I see that over 80 people are in attendance. It seems like when we met in Baltimore, separate from the luncheon, that there were 8 of you in the room. So kudos to you for taking interest in the business of your society. I have a little echo going on. I'm going to make a slight adjustment. All right. So I wanted to start out this year's annual report a little differently than what we normally do. And it fits nicely in line with how Kathy started us off looking at our history. And that we have the strongest records since 2011, same as Leander presented with membership. And I've heard some murmurs in the corners that SWS operates in a deficit. And so I just wanted to dispel that rumor by showing you the data. And you can see very clearly that since 2014, we have operated in the black. I shared these data with the board of directors this past weekend, and there was a question about what happened in the early 2010 decade that, that turned things around. And I have requested the data to actually dive a little deeper into that. But in talking with our past treasurer, Julia Cherry, we think a few things come into play. One is we turn to AMPT as our professional management society, and they have strength in leading meetings, and they've really tightened up that experience for us. As well, we, at the suggestion of auditors, consolidated all of the chapter checking accounts that were held in various accounts across the globe into a single account, put them into interest-bearing accounts, and that has helped. And in fact, we have strategized our investments to the point where we're actually now taking small disbursements from our interest each year to serve membership. So in considering where that rumor might have come from, that we operate in the red, it occurs to me that it may have come from our budgeting process, because each year we tend to project a deficit year because we do budget quite conservatively. We plan for the worst in income and the most expenses, and as a result, we end up projecting a shortfall, which we haven't experienced in the last 6 years. Julia spent a yeoman's effort in tightening our forecasting capabilities and has gotten quite good at our projections. And now I am working with staff at AMPT with the sections and the chapters to tighten their ability to project forward a little more accurately, so that hopefully we will tighten those numbers, and whatever you might be hearing through the grapevine of projected deficit spendings doesn't look quite as harsh when we see it. The other reason we might have gotten that rumor started is that I, for the last 2 years, have put quite a lot of emphasis on finding alternative revenue streams. And part of that is because we spend a little bit more in managing our operations than we bring in just membership dues alone. And this is not an issue that is unique to the Society of Wetland Scientists. In fact, it's sort of an issue with our sister societies of the size. We're too big for volunteers to manage effectively, and we're too small to take advantage of certain economies of scale. So bringing in sources of revenue that are outside of our membership base to account for years when our annual meetings may not be quite as profitable as other years seems like a good approach, and those are some of the actions that we will be moving forward with in shortly after this meeting. In fact, we'll be working on those. Okay, so usually this is what you see, and so you'll get to see it again. In the most recent year, in 2019, our total income was just over $774,000. And you can see by the pie chart in front of you that there are two areas that primarily feed our income, and that of course is our membership dues. So thank you for your commitment to the society and continuing your membership, and as Loretta mentioned in the chat, encouraging your colleagues and students to join us as well. And also, of course, meetings are a strong revenue source for us in most years. There are other areas that bring in income that you can see here. It was mentioned already that we get some royalties off of our partnership with Springer. And then we also have investments that are shown here. These are not our endowment investments. This is just accounts where we hold sort of short-term funds. And our accountant at AMPT has done a very good job at negotiating some high rate interest accounts for us. So in 2019, again, we brought in just about $774,000. On the other side of the balance sheet for that, of course, are our expenses. And again, you can see that there are two areas where we spend most of our money, over 3/4. And that is, of course, in our professional services. That is our business office. It's also our auditing and our legal fees, as well as the meetings that bring in the money also cost us a lot. So these numbers all are without our endowment, without our long-term investment, without our stock market expenses. And you can see that we spent $717,553 in 2019. If you take those expenses away from the income, you'll see that our net ordinary income, again, the money we were profitable with without any stock market investments was actually $56,792. And the great news for 2019 is that we did really well in the stock market. And we, across 3 accounts for the society as a whole, for our chapters, and for our grants and awards, those are all held in 3 separate investment accounts, we realized over $200,000 in profits. So that brought 2019 to an exceptional year where we netted $269,655. So 2019 was a strong year. I do want to put a cautionary pause in for 2020. You all know that COVID is an odd time. We won't have the income from those lost members. Hopefully we'll do a little drive and be able to pick that up. Of course, we won't have the expenses from a meeting as well, but there are some nuances to that. What I do want to point out is the stock market, and that 2020 has not been as strong a year as 2019. However, we have an amazing financial advisor at Wintrust Investments, and he and I have been in touch with each other every 2 or 3 weeks, and we're very actively managing our portfolio. So in early 2020, even before COVID, there was quite a decline in the stock market. Creighton jumped in and really stopped the bleed, and we've almost recovered from that loss, and we anticipate that through 2020, we will hopefully end up investment budget neutral at the very least, if not positive. I think that that's all that I wanted to say. So I'll turn to the chat here as we continue on. I see, I can't actually read, but I see that there's a lot of activity there. I'll try to answer your questions. Do remember that there's a Q&A also for bigger questions that we could get to. And with that, I will turn it over to my friend and colleague, Ben LePage, who will talk to us about the Professional Wetland Certification Program. Ben.
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, everybody. Can y'all hear me? Great talking to you. So this is I guess my last day as the past president, and I would like to introduce our new president-elect, Jillian Davies. Jillian comes from us as a past president from the SWS, so we're really happy, Jillian. Welcome aboard. Matt, excuse me. Matt Simpson has done a great job. I want to commend Matt for all the work that he's done. We've looked at, you know, one of our efforts in globalization this year was to sort of extend our reach to different countries, and we've been successful at that. And Matt has done a great job reaching out to China, and that's going to be a huge benefit to us. Listening to some of the talks this morning from Kathy and Max, we've got one of the things that's come. Some things I want to point out is that we've got some deep, really deep bench strength, but we're not necessarily utilizing it all. We've got the sound science nailed, but we could probably use that to help better develop the policy. So we need to get a little more involved in the policy portion of it, and also getting the communication, getting the public on our side. Basically, think of them as stakeholders, and get that information out to them into digestible pieces. So, you know, that's our ask to the SWS members. Now, the big ask is those of you, the SWS members that have been thinking about becoming a PWS, or making and filling that application in, get it done, get it in, please. And in addition to that, if you're working with colleagues from different countries and think they would be good champions or would be good as a professional wetland scientist, ask them to send in an application themselves. So that's sort of our globalization process. You know, that's our roadmap. And I think if both societies work together, you know, we can get a lot of really great stuff done. So thank you, and I will turn it over to Matt.
Thank you so much, Ben, and yeah, a real personal thanks to you for your help and support in this year of me being president. I'd like to take the opportunity to kind of review what we've done in 2019 and 2020. And first of all, I'd like to say really huge thanks to everyone that works as part of the professional certification program. There's a huge number of people who give up their time to sit on committees, sit on the board and contribute to making it such a great program and really help support professional wetland science around the world, which is fantastic. So a huge thanks to them. Thanks again to Ben for your support, and congratulations to Gillian on becoming president-elect. I've worked with Gillian before when she was president of SWS, and she's absolutely fantastic, and it couldn't be in better hands going forward. So congratulations. So first of all, just to let you know, currently we're just over 2,000 professional wetlands scientists certified, and we've got 303 wetland professionals in training, which is really, really important because they're the future of wetland science, and keeping that professional element to wetland science. And it's important that we've engaged with them and that they will be going through the program and hopefully getting, when they have a bit more experience, applying for a professional wetland scientist accreditation. So that's fantastic, and it's nice that there's such a large body of people that are professional wetland scientists, and that this is you know, growing, which is one of the things, of course, we wanted to do within the program. And something that we've been really concentrating on this year is really promoting it as an international standard, and this is really important because it sets us up in comparison to other professional certification standards around the world for engineering and architecture, and it allows government agencies, the public, anyone to identify qualified individuals to kind of assess and manage wetland resources. So it's really important that this is here. I've certainly found it of benefit in the UK, where we haven't previously had anything like this. So it's fantastic that it is there. And something which I think is great is that it really supports and recognises a career in wetland science. That might be quite strange to hear for folks from North America and particularly from the United States, but in many countries of the world you don't get that sort of recognition. So having a professional certification program is really, really important, and it helps cement a career in wetland science. And that's particularly important when you're working in multidisciplinary groups, because there are other professional standards for architects, for landscape architects, and it's really great you can say that you're a professional wetland scientist and you've had that certified. And there's no other real national or international certification of its kind, so it's really filling an important role across the world. And that's what we've really been trying to do this year, is really sort of expand the global reach of the programme. Many of those professional wetland scientists are based in the United States or certainly North America, but we're trying to expand that. And I'm really pleased that Wei Ta-Fang got his professional wetland scientist accreditation this year, because he's the first in Asia to get it. And since then, we've really tried to see how we can make it more accessible, the programme. So we've developed a new fee structure for developing countries, both in terms of certification and in terms of renewal, which is fantastic, because hopefully that's making the programme more accessible around the world now. And I'm very grateful to a number of people based around the world who have become our professional wetland scientists international champions, and they're really promoting the programme. They've gone through the application process themselves, and now they're promoting the programme internationally. And what's great is in all these continents you can see mentioned here, we have now professional wetland scientists, and we hope that it's going to grow and grow in the future. Another thing that we developed this year, which is fantastic, is really thanking the members that have been a professional wetland scientist for a number of years, and particularly those that have made it through the 20-year mark. So we've set up a new standard, which is the senior professional wetland scientist. So anyone with continuous membership for 20 years has achieved this. And you can see we've got a pin badge, and we've sent out congratulations to and thanks to those people. And I really want to thank them for their support for the programme. Many of those people have contributed on committees and boards over the years, and it's really, you know, a credit to them that the programme is doing so well and is now expanding in a global way. And then finally, I just want to mention about some things we're doing, some activities we're doing for our members as a result of COVID-19. You're all aware that it's having a big impact, and for some of our members that is a financial impact as well as a mental health and well-being impact. So we've set up these SWS PCP Connect Zoom sessions. We had our first one earlier in the month. And this is really for members to express the challenges they're facing and see whether other members have got solutions to those challenges. And we're developing some resources around this session. So we had our first one, which was really great. And it was really nice to hear people's innovative solutions to some of the challenges people have faced in this current situation. And we're going to hold these for every 2 months. And see how the situation develops and whether it's still a useful resource for people. But we're planning at the moment that we'll do it every 2 years, and it's really a great way to reach out to our membership. And Kim will, in a minute, will talk about some of the other activities we're doing around supporting members during this tough time. So on that note, I want to say again a huge thank you to everyone for supporting the programme during this last year, and particularly in these difficult circumstances. And I know it will go from strength to strength with Kim Ponzio now taking over as president. I mean, she's an absolutely fantastic person. Her energy and her drive and commitment is huge. You'll have seen that with her presidency of SWS. And I know the program is in really, really safe hands. So good luck, Kim. And I now pass the presidency over to you. Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you, Matt. I really appreciate it. I should probably take the tiara and put it on my head. So I just want to thank Matt. He's been an incredible leader for SWS PCP and the entire team, the SWS PCP leadership team, as well as the business office, because they've done a great job of showing me the ropes over the last year. And I'm really excited to start serving the society as in that kind of a collaborative team spirit. So I want to go ahead and talk about just real quickly some of the things that Matt suggested that I was going to talk about. And one of the things I'm very excited to talk about is the program that we've just developed. And I think despite being in these unprecedented times, we're resilient and we're poised to learn how to work effectively for wetlands in this new paradigm, just like what we've done today. So we're all working a little differently now. We see that we're doing a lot of teleworking. I've been doing that for the past 2.5 months. Social distancing and mask wearing out in the field. These are some of my colleagues actually working at the Water Management District. And also in some cases, unfortunately, some of our folks that are members have had reduced work or even job loss. And so some of those professional wetland scientists, the senior professional wetland scientists, or even the whippets cannot pay their annual maintenance fees due to COVID-19. So I'm really pleased to be able to announce that we've set aside a hardship fund of $25,000 to help folks with their full or partial waiver of those annual fees to maintain their certifications. So we already have an online application for this, so please take a look at our website to apply if you need to. Also, another new development just happened 2 days ago. The SWS PCP has just added a non-voting student representative position to the board of directors. And this is really important to us. We really want to have our finger on the pulse of the next generation of certified wetland scientists. So we need the student feedback and input on activities and initiatives of the program. So this student would be appointed by the board of directors from anywhere to 1 to 3 years, depending on how long they remain a student. And the bonus is, and I know people are going to be clamoring to apply for this, and we will have a form coming out soon, is that the student rep would have a stipend or be eligible for a yearly stipend to either apply to become a whippet or to pay their annual whippet maintenance fees. So that's another really new exciting development. And as Matt mentioned, we've been making great progress on increasing our global reach of the certification program with our champions and having some recently certified PWSs and whippets from China and Peru and Australia and even Mexico. And we're really doing a lot of trying to update our resources, our website and our materials. And this is actually a flyer we put together. I know you can't read it, but it'll be available for those who want it. This is something that we put together because the SWS student section asked us about the program and how they could get some, initial details on how to get involved with the certification program. And so we asked them that this flyer that's in English, could they translate that to Spanish for us to start to increase our reach globally? And they did that, and they promised that they could also translate it into 4 other languages as well. So be looking for French, Chinese, Japanese. I think, I'm not sure what of all the languages are, but I'm really gonna thank the SWS student section for doing that. So thank you for that. And then finally, just wrapping up, I know SWS has just gone through the painstaking process and Scott Jecker and all those that were on the team were awarded for their very, very good work on the strategic plan for SWS. And SWS PCP would like to go ahead and begin working on a strategic plan this year. So we really want to outline those specific actions for meeting that overall goal, where we're going to be identifying these qualified individuals to assess and manage wetland resources around the world. And before I close, I want to kind of reiterate Ben's big ask and add to it a little bit. Apply if you're worried that you maybe don't, aren't ready to meet the criteria for PWS, you can apply to be a WIPIT. And please contact the folks that can answer questions if you are worried about different criteria for that. Also, my other ask, and this is the addition, is that you get involved. And especially those new senior PWSs, you have a new PIN. And I would love it if you could, our professor, and also our PWS is Emeritus and Emerita, if you would get involved in the PCP program to share your expertise and help others to be able to apply, and we'll have those champions around the world to increase the program. So with that, I'm going to hand that back over to, I believe, Jordan at this point. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben, Matt, and Kim. It's an impressive program. I've left a comment in the chat already on that. So thank you very much, and thank everyone involved, both in the past and now. We have a agenda item here, some business. This is to approve the minutes from the 2019 SWS annual business meeting. There was a link to these in the messages that were being sent out. We have a voting box which appears in front of you, which you just have to hit yes, no, or abstain and submit. So you could please do that. Sorry, we should actually ask if there's any comments on the minutes. Sorry, I was jumping ahead. Anyone has any comments? I don't know quite how they'd have to be on the Q&A. There's nothing appearing there. We can just go to the vote.
Hey, Max, just from a procedural thing, I'll make a motion officially to approve the 2019 annual business meeting minutes provided. And if someone would be so kind as to second that.
Thank you, Leandra. I'm glad you put me back in line. It's where I belong.
Leandra, I'll second your motion.
Thank you. Thank you both. So I haven't seen, I was actually checking the Q&A and chat when you were doing that. So doubly pleased you did that. I haven't seen any comments. So we have a motion, and to get rid of the chat box, we have the voting box in front of us. So now if you could please proceed to record your vote and submit. Thank you. And Jordan will collate the results and let us know. Here we go. We have the votes. This is the percentage, I think, here is, we have 90% in favour and 10% abstention. So thank you very much. And thank you for Leandra for providing those minutes all that time ago. So that is that one. Now we go to one of the other great parts of the evening, where we have the election results. And I need to announce these. So congratulations, Laurie Sutter. Welcome back as Treasurer for another term. I've already shown my appreciation to Laurie for her past term. We look forward to the next. Welcome. Can I do the next slide? Yes, Leandra Cleveland, welcome back as well to another term. Again, Leandra does a fascinating job, a fantastic job, a fascinatingly difficult role, I believe. I think it's a fascinating role you do here, Leandra. It's an important job, as are all these, so welcome back. And then we go, next one is not a welcome back, but it's a welcome in to Greg No as the incoming president. welcome, Greg, and I look forward to working with you as I move to past president. And then we have, as you should all know, Loretta is moving from president-elect to president. So Loretta, I virtually hand you the spoon, the SWS spoon, so you can take over. It's been a pleasure working with you in the last year. I look forward to the upcoming year as well. And I can hand over to you, and it's your meeting now. Welcome. Everyone's clapping?
Let's see if I can toggle. Can I just get you to advance, Jordan? I've only got a couple slides. Thank you. So hi, everyone. Thanks for being here and staying to the end. I hope everybody is staying safe and healthy. I'd like to reiterate what Max said. Thank you to the executive board, the board of directors, staff, and all of the membership. Thanks to everyone, especially for helping us stay the course and getting through these recent challenges and really tough times. I can say it's been uplifting and heartening to see everyone pull together as a society and demonstrate our resiliency. Something that Kim just mentioned, I think it's a common theme when we talk about SWS. We are a resilient society. Next slide, please. It is really unfortunate that we can't all be together this year, and like me, I'll bet you are missing old friends and colleagues and the opportunity to meet new ones. Zoom keeps us connected like today, but is certainly no substitute for a shared field trip, a raised beer, or a hug. And there's no getting around that. But one thing I have personally found out over the last several months while being quarantined inside of our house and working exclusively from our home office is that reflection and seeking out the silver linings are important. And here are just a few of the silver linings that I see for our society as we all regroup and reemerge. We have all, perhaps not voluntarily, myself included, learned a lot of new things and ways of reaching out and staying connected. Today is the perfect example. More than 90 people registered for this meeting. And I don't think there's still 90 online, but we had a really good turnout. And I don't know if I've ever seen that many people at an in-person meeting for the annual business meeting. So maybe everybody is really keen to connect because we're starving for each other's company and input. I want to send out a really special kudos to the student section, by the way, for putting on the inaugural virtual SWS student conference. What a bunch of bold and cool trailblazers is all I have to say. The site goes down the night before the conference, no problem, get it fixed. Online hackers disrupt yesterday's meeting and put a questionable video up there. No problem. The students just get a new meeting link and keep going. In the meantime, people from all over the world are presenting and tuning in to learn and share their research about wetlands from everywhere. Keep them coming, I say. This is the inaugural one. It's been awesome. We encourage you to do this again and again. The student conference and others like the SWS Europe virtual conference and the wonderful work that the SWS webinar group is doing are terrific models for how we can be even more flexible in our delivery of information and connecting everybody who's interested in wetlands. There is so much great work going on out there with our chapter sections and committees, and sometimes it's hard to keep up with all of it. As I've mentioned to a couple people, we're sort of victims of our own success because we're always trying to figure out who's doing what because there's so much activity and it's awesome work that's happening right now in our society. These new tools that we developed and experiences make us even more resilient and extend the reach of SWS around the world. I mean, just yesterday in the conference, the student conference, 2 of the student talks came in from Peru and Australia. And so I think, you know, this is really good news. Although we can't all be together, there's some real positive things coming out of this. Change slide for me, please. Our society has always been in good hands, so it's with excitement that I accept the spoon, albeit virtual at this point, from Max. And Max, thank you so much for your leadership, good humor, and professionalism. And I look forward to working with you for the next year and into the future. Yours are really big shoes. I guess you have big feet, Max. Big shoes to fill, and I hope to do my very best. And by the way, we're all virtual here, but there is something physical on its way to you in Yakandanda, and we hope you will like it. And please share it on the website once it arrives so everyone can see. I'm excited to continue contributing to help see our ongoing initiatives to fruition and to work with all of you to help us craft new ones that take us into the future. I especially want us to expand our outreach efforts more to the public, and I look forward to working with the education section and the newly reactivated Education and Outreach Committee to inform and to further extend our reach. So looking forward to being in Spokane with you all next year, whatever that may look like, in person, virtual, or some mixture. And thank you for your attention. And with that, I will call for any new business. I need to catch up on the chat. Hopefully everybody can help me with this if there's any new business in there.
There is nothing in there right now, Loretta.
Good. Yeah, I'm not sure if I pronounced Yakandanda correctly, Max.
It's good enough.
Still nothing. I think you may be good, Loretta.
Okay, so can I ask for a motion then to adjourn the meeting? And thank everybody, by the way, for spending your morning or your evening, as it were, with us. And we look forward to engaging further. And please reach out anytime. My email is here. It was here on this webinar, and it'll be available certainly online. Reach out to the executive board. If you have suggestions, comments, let us know. And can I call for a motion to adjourn if we have no new business? I see a motion to adjourn from Matt Schweisberg.
I'll second it.
Second that? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Or raise your hand. Or otherwise, don't chat. I'm not sure how you do this. Let's see. Any opposed? Hopefully not. We don't see anything on there. And any abstentions? Okay. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe, and we look forward to hopefully in Spokane we'll all be back together.